Please click the subscribe button and the notification icon. It will help us a lot. Hi, I'm Rodrigo from Frame Freak Studio, and this is the Creative Hustler Show. And today we have a returning guest, which is someone that I really like interviewing the first time because I found that he myself had a lot of very the same values pretty much. We had the same values. And just to give you a little bit of an introduction, uh, this is this is a book that I've been reading for the last 3 years, one chapter at a day, which is the Daily Stoic, which pretty much has a lot of principles that help you out to a better living. Let's say it is a very practical principles, and it helps you out to control a little bit more on your emotions. And the guest here that I have is pretty much a master in this because he was raised in Texas by his grandparents, and he learned even to do to live in the wild pretty much by himself. And taking those skills, he decided that he wanted to pursue art, and he just went to California to get better opportunities, and he lived in his car for a while, which is something that, let's be honest, not many people are willing to do. And he was able to get a job at DreamWorks, where he worked at Voltron and pretty much as a visual designer. And this is Voltron Legendary Defender, the series from DreamWorks TV. And now pretty much he has become a YouTuber that has only 37 videos, but through those videos he has amassed a following of 163,000 followers. He is also burning in his Instagram as well. He has 30K followers, almost 44, and pretty much he's been showing all the other people and all the other artists how to improve their art through his YouTube channel and posting his art as well online. So this is a person I highly admire. So welcome, Ethan.
Hey, how's it going? I am from Texas and I have no emotions. You are correct.
This is something that I think are like a lot, because in the creative industry is usually you will find a lot of people who are very emotional, and I think the both of us are kind of quite the contrary to that. Like, it's not that we don't have any emotions, but we don't allow ourselves to be pulled by them. And I think that can be really quite a skill, especially when trying to get into, let's say, the top rank of professionals in the world, especially when you're working with big projects like he was doing in Voltron. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, you can't let emotions get in the way. At the end of the day, a job's a job, you know? Yep, just gotta do the work. Make sure you do it well.
And I love like the creativity that you have been putting out there. Like, I was looking at the last video and I saw that you were using the clip microphone on your beer. And I used to have a beer a while ago, and I thought like, I should have used that to put my microphone as well. So that's a nice thing to
the
have.
The audio quality was incredible. I was very surprised.
So now you have become a YouTuber who pretty much is doing amazingly. With 37 videos,
Thank
you have
you.
gotten a lot.
Thank you. I'm not a YouTuber. I work in animation, and if I have a second, I will do some YouTube videos. But I am not a YouTuber though.
Okay, nice for the clarification. Still, like, let's be honest, there will be a lot of people who would like to get that kind of following, the same that you have, and you have done that with very small amount of work. But let's say a very small amount of work compared to other people who have been putting, let's say, daily videos every day. Like, and however, something that I was watching on them is that even though it doesn't look like it, you do put a lot of effort into making the videos look amazingly. Is that correct?
Thank you. That is very correct. It takes a long time. It takes roughly a day to day and a half of editing. Uh, uh, it, it takes like a 9 to midnight job in animation, so it's pretty tough. It's pretty darn tough to keep it up, once a week. But it's worth it. It's not. I'm not going to do it forever. But I mean, my last video was the last video that I will be making. But so it's pretty much done at this point.
And what made you decide to do videos for YouTube, or what made you decide to try that medium?
Honestly, it's when you want to learn something, when you want to dive into something and learn it to the fullest extent, the best thing to do is try to teach it to somebody, because then you kind of, you start talking about something and you're trying to teach it, but then you think like, wait a minute, do I really know this subject? Let me just research it, and let me just find the points that are the most important, like the most iconic things of the subject that I'm trying to teach before I even try to, teach anybody else. It's really, really important to try to teach things if you're going to learn them yourself. So that's pretty much it. I needed to dive into very specific things like storytelling, storyboards. I'm mainly using my audience. I'm completely manipulating my audience to get what I want, essentially. But also, YouTube is pretty much the way of the future. It's like, or maybe not YouTube itself, but things like YouTube. It's like a streaming type of situation where you can learn to micromanage an audience and try to learn what they want, cater to them, kind of go back and forth and figure out what you're doing wrong and what people really want. How to manipulate an audience, essentially. That's what Netflix is doing, Amazon, that's what everybody's doing. So I'm trying to do my own little version of it right here to figure out how that works, and it teaches me how to talk to people. It teaches me how to present my own ideas. It just teaches me to get to the point. And it's helped a lot. And I would say, even if you're not doing YouTube videos, I think anybody should sit in front of a camera and record themselves trying to explain an idea, and then go back and edit and see how much you ramble and ramble and ramble like I'm doing right now. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, that is something that is very true. There was this challenge that we did with some friends a while ago, and it was that, pretty much what you just say, sit in front of the camera and do video blogging for 90 days in a row, trying to explain principles, lessons that you had. And something that I learned, even though I wasn't putting like edition, it was like camera, my face, and just talking, is that through those 90 days, I started seeing what you just say, that the ways you ramble kind of works that you use to pause and gain some thoughts. And then I started getting like a nice flow in my brain on how I communicated those ideas. And then there were a couple of moments where I was able to give some speeches to universities or events, things like that. And I was one of the few people who was able to just go right up without any presentation or anything like that. And I was able to speak clearly about the ideas that I had without having any issues, without running out of things to say. And people were surprised by it. And everybody was asking me like, hey, how did you manage to do all this? And it's like, do video blogging.
Right. Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah, exactly.
And are you joking when you say that the video that you just did is going to be the last one, or is this serious? Like, are you planning to take a break from this?
It's absolutely serious. It's my last video, the one that I just posted. It's pretty much it. Yeah. Sorry about that.
I bet the audience is going to be kind of sad not to watch you give your lessons. But I think that the experiment has run its course. And yeah, I think that when I describe you, pretty much, I didn't put a lot of thought into it when I said that you have become a YouTuber because you were doing videos. But yeah, this is something that we need to clarify just in case, like you are not living off the YouTube channel, you actually have a job as a visual developer and creating uh, as digital assets, visual assets toward the production of series and movies and things like that. So that is something that you, I think we need to clarify because just to avoid the idea that some people can say that, okay, let's go into YouTube and I'm going to make a living. Like making a living out of YouTube can be really, really hard.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I'm working at a it's the company's not announced yet, but they're working. They're working connected to Netflix, so it's kind of like a Netflix job by third party type of situation. So not working at DreamWorks anymore. Once you get into the industry, it's this whole thing, where you hop around from place to place, and companies get mad because they think, you're poaching artists or whatever, but that's just how it goes. You go from Disney to DreamWorks to Warner Bros. To Netflix, and now maybe Amazon or whatever. But at the moment, the company that I'm working at should be announced maybe in a year or less. Yeah.
Nice. And just to talk a little bit about the industry, maybe because of where I'm from, I'm more, let's say, close to this situation, but I think that there is a lot of people around the world who think that animation and illustration and all these careers are like this stable job that once you get in, let's say, once you get in Disney or DreamWorks or whatever, you're going to keep working there for years and years to no end until you retire. But the more I interview people, the more I see that the model is changing to what you just said. Like you work a couple of years in one company, then you jump to another, then you jump to another, then you jump to another, and so far what I have been able to hear from a lot of people is that if you manage to stay 4 years into one company, you're lucky. So can you elaborate a little bit on that situation, just for those who, let's say, are thinking about uh, doing this as a living, becoming an artist, a professional artist, and start working on it?
Yeah, that hasn't happened necessarily for me, or well, it's more of like a choice for me and my group of friends. It seems to be a choice that you work. I mean, it's a lot differenter than it used to be, where the industry is now changing so rapidly. You got Netflix and all the streaming thing. It's like a big boom of, projects and stuff. So as of right now, as far as I know, there aren't really companies that, in my experience, where you're let off and that's pretty much it. The company would like to keep you around, but if you have a better job over here, people go over there. But there were just other projects and other jobs that I kind of wanted. I could, at that point in my career, I could pick and choose, what I want to work on, whom I want to work with. And that's kind of what it boils down to. I haven't really seen that, actually, where somebody kind of gets laid off or their project ends and the company doesn't necessarily want them anymore. It does happen, but it hasn't happened to my friends directly, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, yeah, I think I have talked to a lot of people, so probably I'm more exposed to that a little bit because of the interviews that we are doing. But yeah, that definitely what you just said is something true as well, that the industry is changing a lot and it's changing really fast as well. And over the last year, I have done a lot of interviews with people who are working from Europe, and let's be honest, like it hasn't been a long time since you had to be in Los Angeles to work, to have these jobs and to work on these projects. And now I'm interviewing a lot of people who are doing work from Mexico, from Japan, from the Netherlands, from Spain, and they are working for these companies and they don't have to leave their house. So I think technology, and especially virtual reality, artificial reality, is going to change how we're doing things and how the studios are doing things in ways that we cannot yet predict completely on what is going to happen. And going on that, what are the trends that you are seeing so far that, let's say, somebody can take advantage of?
Something that they can take advantage of?
Yeah.
How so? You mean a student?
Yeah, let's say somebody who is new into and wants to enter into the industry. What areas do you see that, like for example, Goro Fujita has gone full into virtual reality and has been posting all his drawings in VR in his Instagram, and through doing that, he has positioned himself right now like as one of the experts of that area, even though the area is not well developed yet and is still in development. But I think that was an amazing strategy that he did.
Yeah, it is. It depends what kind of, where you're trying to be. If you're just trying to get into the industry and just kind of do whatever, and fill niches and stuff like that, like he was doing, that's it takes somebody pretty professional to kind of go into that, and he got really popular off of that. But if you're a student or whatever, I think 3D is a really big thing. At like backgrounds and stuff, we don't use the new generation for board artists. A lot of them, they're not drawing their own backgrounds anymore. They're throwing in 3D backgrounds. You go to SketchUp or Blender or whatever, and you just pick your backgrounds and you throw them into the storyboard file. And so, but that might lead a lot of people to think that you don't need to know, how perspective works and how backgrounds should be drawn and stuff like that. So I came from a background designing background, and that really helped a lot for storyboarding because I understand lenses and I understand, perspective and all of that. So that's a way that the future can kind of mess with a lot of kids coming up these days, I think. But overall, it's really, really good. 3D, VR. The project that we're about to start at my company, it's they're thinking about using like a motion capture type of deal. I don't quite know exactly what we have planned for it, but it's like you're using a virtual camera. So let's say the show is in 3D or CG, and then you've got like a rig set up to where you can film what's happening in the 3D environment, but with a virtual camera. So you can kind of get a real camera dude in there, and he can, they're already doing this, but we're thinking about doing it for animation now. And that's kind of a big leap, moving into that, just to get a real camera feel, how you can push in or, pull out, or the subtleties of a real camera and make it feel real. So that's something new.
Yeah, there is definitely, even The Mandalorian, I was watching that they have, in this series, that they have created this new technology that instead of using green screens and things like that, like the 3D render of the background is being played live, and it's like,
whoa, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, wow. And it's like imagine that this whole wall behind me was playing a background and I'm acting in front of it, and that's how they are filming it. And the insane thing is that they can add elements to the background do real-time rendering. So let's say, oh, you know
How?
what? Let's add some stones over here. Let's add some mountains. I want to have this better feeling. And now
What?
they just mount that onto the background, and they just have to take the shot again. So instead of going into doing like the full production for the 3D and doing the render and the usual process, you just have the background already, and you just film it in there, and the video is
That's
done.
incredible.
So that you just jump
Wow.
into the edition room, and that's it. Like, you just have to play for the digital effects when, let's say, somebody's shooting a laser or something like that. But
Yeah.
other than that, like all the that's how they film the Mandalorian. Like, all the film that you're seeing is like a movie passing behind the characters, and that was crazy, I think.
Wow, I'm gonna have to check that out. I've never heard of that before. That's I'm gonna have to get me one of those.
Yeah, definitely. It's in YouTube as well. Like, just check how they film the Mandalorian, and you are going. In the beginning, I wasn't watching. Like, I wasn't thinking like, this doesn't look like a big thing. And then I started seeing how they were playing with the backgrounds. It's like, oh, now I see.
Wow.
Yeah, and for example, right now things are changing so fast that even I started thinking like, well, this probably is going to be really hard to predict. So I started a second interview show called Level Up, where I'm interviewing the people, the CEOs and the founders of companies who are creating these technologies. And for example, one of these people that I interviewed was doing a project called Story XR. And what they do is that they're trying to create like a health related product with virtual reality. So let's say you put a tracker in your heart and a tracker in your brain, and you put the VR headset, and you're like in a 3D environment, like a game. Let's think it like a game. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to advance in the game, you have to start meditating. And the best you do the meditation, the more you advance in the game. And because this thing is tracking like your heart rate and your brain patterns, like for example, if you start getting distracted from the meditation, or if you start thinking negative thoughts, it will read that and it will regress you into the game. And if you
Whoa.
want to advance, you just have to put yourself in the zone so that you are meditating incredibly well, and you are seeing like the heart rate and your brain rate. And so if you're falling off the chart, like, it will tell you, okay, like, try to keep it up here. So now you can try to regulate your own heart rate and your own brain waves. So
Wow.
what you get a better feel of the meditation, and you are seeing that in many ways as you are into this virtual reality, and they are playing with different environments. So that's the idea. Like, you advance into the game by actually meditating really good. And when I first heard that, I thought, okay, this is a door. I have opened a very weird door here. Like, I'm starting to get in touch with people who are doing things that I thought we were not ready yet, but it is happening already. And and yeah, I think that once we start playing with what is possible and combining technologies, uh, then things are going to get really weird. Not only
Yeah.
not only in the art industry, but everywhere.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be easier too. It's future. We're living in it. That's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, I think that things are going to get crazy. Like, right now, just to give you an example, this is another person that I interviewed. Uh, I'm in a very noisy environment, but I'm betting that my audio, at least you're hearing me pretty well, right?
I don't hear anything. I just hear you.
Okay, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn something off here, and you should be able to hear a
Yeah.
little bit more
Wow.
noise. Now, this thing is just an app that uses artificial intelligence to detect what is my voice and what isn't, and pretty much
Oh,
eliminates all the background noise around me. And
whoa.
even if I clap, I think you should not be able to hear anything.
Oh, wow. What if I clap?
Oh, I can hear you unless I turn off the noise for you as well. Now you try it. Okay, I barely hear. A couple
Huh.
of tiny things.
Wow.
So I can turn off the background noise on your side, and I can turn off the background noise on my side.
That's crazy. That's perfect for your service.
Yeah, definitely. So, and this is like, we might not think a lot of it, but before this app, I started to pay like in a studio $600 a month to a studio, so that was located in a more quiet place. And now that I have this app, like I stop playing that, uh, paying that studio. So that means that this guy is going to start like he lost that money because some tiny app exists now. So yeah, I think that
Wow.
things like this are going to help people, as you say. It can be really helpful to get the backgrounds in 3D, as you have mentioned, but at the same time, it's going to become more important to know the basics, right? Or the
Yeah, well, it
fundamentals of this.
depends. Yeah, it really depends on what you want to do, you know? If you're a 3D artist, then you don't need to know any of that. Even like a concept painter sometimes, you know, I mean, it would help, but a lot of it's going 3D these days. Just depends where you want to go.
Nice. And since our last interview, there been any lessons that you have learned that have changed the way on how you see your career, professionally speaking, in the way of principles, on work ethic and things like that?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. You know, my morals, everything is pretty much steadfast, the same. Uh, Maybe more so that I just kind of realize I don't know anything. The more and more I grow up into a big boy, adult, I kind of realize, you know, you don't know nothing, and it takes all types of people to kind of tell you what's what, and be open to it. I'm pretty much stayed the same. Yeah.
Nice to know. And yeah, that is true. I think that as much as I get older myself, I started, let's say, gaining a little bit more of appreciation. Not sure if that's the right word, or at least awareness of how much I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
That is definitely. And if you were able to meet like a young, driven student who has a lot of talent for art, what would be your advice to that person to get started into the industry? And what advice should that person ignore, do you think?
The advice, you know, I can only tell people what I had done, how I lived, and the process that I went to get the jobs. You know, that's mainly, you just got to find the industry that you want to get into. This works for anything: shoemaking, hat making, or shoes. Even, you go to the industry that you want. You find a school. I mean, these days it can be relatively cheap. Find a community where you can go in and talk to people face to face. All right, that's really important, as opposed to just typing out an email, because we're humans. We work on that face to face level. So as soon as you start building a relationship with these people that you go to school, you meet the students. Maybe some of these students are already in the industry. Maybe these students know other students who know a guy who's already in the industry. All right, we've already talked about that in the past one, but that's really all it comes down to, is a person-to-person relationship Don't be sleazy. Don't be stupid. Don't try to just hand out your business card to everybody. It's about being real with people and saying, hey, this is where I want to be at some point in the future. Let's be friends and talk about it. And, we don't have to be just contacts. You just have to build up your people skills sometimes, which is it's kind of like interesting how counter that is for artists, because naturally artists are for the most part, I think, we're the kids sitting in the back of the classroom with their hoodie up and doodling their anime. And anytime somebody talked to them, they'd be like, they're just antisocial for the most part. And it's really hard to break out of that. But I was that way for a long time. And I think the more you grow up, the more you realize that nobody really cares about you, and nobody really cares about the mistakes that you're going to make, and you don't need to feel so nervous around other people, because nobody cares. I had a big social issue. I didn't want to be on Facebooks. I didn't want to be on the Instagrams. I didn't want to be anywhere on the internet, just because when you're younger, you have the emotion of like caring what people think. And that can really get in the way of you just being natural and just being yourself. And getting caught up in that can really lead to antisocial behavior that it's just not beneficial. And it's so tough to break out of, because it's all mental, But it's really easy for me to say that, just to say go out and talk to people, because that's not a lot of artists don't do that naturally, because we're, again, naturally antisocial, or introverted, maybe I should say. And I'm very introverted. I can sit on my computer and draw all day and be by myself. Extremely introverted. But the more I realize, like looking at people on YouTube, looking at Donald Trump, the more you can like talk the talk. You don't even have to walk the walk sometimes. If there's one thing to learn from that fellow, Donald Trump, is that you just gotta know how to talk. You can talk your way into anything. And that's one thing that he can do. And I think he's a really good example of that. There's all kinds of crazy people in the past that have gotten to where they got because they could talk well. That's just how it is. And I always thought that it was 50-50, 50% work ethic, or no, 50% talent, 50% skills, and then 50% talking to people. That's what you would think naturally, but it's not really. It's like 99% talking and knowing how to present yourself and just being a good person and persuasive, just knowing how to talk and just be social and make friends, and then 1% skills. Because I've seen people get hired whom they had the potential to be a good artist, but at the moment they were not. At the moment of being hired, they're not good at all. But again, doesn't matter, as long as you make friends and they know, hey, I know this person. I know this person will work good for me, because we know each other on a personal level. You don't need to see their portfolio. You just think, I know that person. And yeah, that's all it takes.
Yeah, and this is something that we learn in business as well, that you can have like an amazing product, but if your marketing sucks, like nobody's going to buy it. So that will be the same thing as an artist. And I think DeviantArt is like the best example of this, because I have seen so many amazing artists in DeviantArt that I used to follow when I went big into that platform when it was huge years ago. And then I saw them like posting things about they having to leave their art or the comics that they were doing in DeviantArt because they had to get a job that was very demanding, and that they couldn't get a job as an artist, or they couldn't get money as an artist. And it's like, you're an amazing fucking artist. Like, how the fuck can you not get a job as an artist.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, I have seen other people working in this in Pixar, which I see in portfolios, and not saying that their art is bad, but if I were to compare the art that these other guys were able to do versus these portfolios, like there was a huge difference. And then you have all these guys who are amazing artists but cannot get a job in it, and I think it's because they do not ha- have these skills, as you mentioned, like the ability to present themselves and the ability to sell themselves. And this is funny. I my first business was in the app development and website development kind of thing. So I used to hang around with a lot of people who are geeks. And when I jump into animation and doing these uh, kind of creative endeavors at the beginning, at at a very basic level, like the geeks and the artists both look the same, like introverted people who were just focused on what they were doing and things like that. So I did not understand how you have, for example, Silicon Valley. Well, uh, they're in San Francisco, like not so far away from Los Angeles, and you have all these geeks going into business and doing billions of dollars. And
Yeah.
it is kind of amazing to see, because if you see the founders of tech startups, they are making billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars, and then you see where they live, and it's just like a room, a mattress, and a desktop with a computer, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like almost like living very minimalistic, because all the money that they are making, they are putting it back into the company. But then you see Los Angeles, and something that, after seeing these environments of the tech startup entrepreneur in Estonia, in Europe, well, in Europe in general, and in the United States as well, the animation industry, in certain ways, it feels like it has stayed in the past in many areas. and and until now, you're starting seeing like people who have worked in Disney and Pixar putting their own studios and trying to do their own things, like uh, uh, Tonko House or Taiko. But most people are not do not have that chip at entrepreneurship. So I started like putting really attention into this both group of people, because I think like, well, they both look the same. They are both introverted, and they both kind of have the same disposition to how they approach their art. So what is happening that in the technological things, the geeks, the nerds, the people who nobody wanted to date like 20 years ago, are now pretty much developing the whole future. And here in Los
Yeah.
Angeles, you
Yeah.
will see, well, even in France, like you see Gobelins, and you see, if you look for Gobelins animations in YouTube, you see a lot of amazing animation, and they all end up just wanting to have a job at Pixar or Disney doing the kind of generic animation that we see from Disney. Not saying this that is bad, but it's pretty generic.
Yeah.
Is that and what I was able to find at the end is that the geeks have a very systematic kind of mindset, that they just have to figure the algorithm to figure it out. Like if it is social skills or presentation or selling themselves or how to talk to people, they will attack that as a problem to be solved as a coding level. Let's say, like, what is the right sequence that I have to figure out so that I can go from not talking to this person to talking to this person, and now how can I replicate it with all these other people that now I'm like, they are like not working with millionaires and learning from them, and then they are putting their own businesses. But as you say, when it comes to the artists, they just stay locked in a room drawing.
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
and that's the difference that I was able to find out in the end. But as you mentioned, like you can figure it out, like you can learn to do that, and if you can learn how to do that, a lot of doors open. And at the end
Yeah.
is it's all people. Like all the companies are just people. Like you are getting hired by people. You will be working by with people. And if you're in animation, well, I think you have checked that out as well. Like you have to be in a collaborative environment where your work has to work kind of function with the work of other people as well, so you can put everything together into an animation, right?
Exactly. Yep. It's a team effort. That's all it is.
Nice. So let's say whenever you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do to get back to your center?
When I am unfocused, I don't think I'm. What do I do to get back to my center? I think I'm the wrong person to ask that question. I'm sorry. The simple answer I can give is maybe music. Music is a really big mood changer because whenever you become unfocused and not centered, it's all a mental thing. And so to break yourself out of that, okay, maybe here's a better answer for artists. Music is a good one, but what's really good is if you sit down and take an artist's work that you like and you lower the opacity and you just take a good handful of 50 or so drawings and you just kind of break down their work casually. Don't sit there and try to stress yourself out over it. Take a bunch of different people's artworks that you like and not necessarily where you can trace, but just trying to get into their mindset. Put Netflix on the side, put YouTube on the side. Make sure it's combined with a positive experience. Listen to really good music. Your goal here isn't to really get better. It's to be comfortable and to get comfortable with getting back into that mindset of just being comfortable and just, recentering, like you said.
Definitely. And lately I have seen a couple of videos on YouTube of people talking about this issue where there are new people entering into the industry and charging a lot less than what they should charge. And the mindset, probably we all understand it, is like you're a first-time artist and you just want to enter and work in Disney or whatever, in whatever company, so you can say in your resume that, hey, I work into this company, so now I can move up the ranks. So in the beginning, it might feel like natural thing to do to accept less payment. But on the long term, I think we all know that it is not a best strategy because it not only lowers the price that you're going to get in the future, but it lowers all the other people, because now as a business owner, like, or as somebody who is hiring, it's like, why do I have to hire this guy when I know that there are a couple of guys out there who are willing to do the same work for half the price or whatever. So
it's an age-old problem.
Yeah, definitely. So how would you approach pricing? Pretty much how would be your method to define pricing, how much you're going to charge, or something that resembles like a model that other artists can use in order to figure out what they should be charging when getting a job into these industries?
Well, I can't really give an exact pricing because every studio is different, everywhere is different. But what I can talk about is just the mindset of it. And again, it is an age-old problem. This problem has come up, every country. It's just outsourcing work or just cheaper work, cheaper labor. Yes, it is a problem, but here's the thing. You're always going to have that problem. You're always going to have students. You're always going to have people that are willing to work for less. So saying that you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't accept jobs for lower pay than the standard pay. You can't just tell people that, because the fact is they're going to do it. So the only thing that I can do, again, I'm speaking from personal experience, is that these companies are going to get what they pay for. So if there's one language that everybody speaks, it's money. So eventually they're going to keep on getting products. They're going to hire, they're going to get cheaper products. You know, they're going to hire people for cheaper, and the products are going to come out cheaper, and it's just not going to look as good. And that's the only language that we can speak here is money. So you can't tell students to not accept a job for 1/5 of the pay that they're supposed to be getting paid, because they're going to take it. I mean, anybody in the right mind, the first job that they're offered at Disney or DreamWorks, that's the market. DreamWorks, well, I'm not going to say any company is going to have, they're going to have that market. And student market, it's a big thing, especially these days. It's a really big thing. And I am obligated to, I have just two sides here. I'm obligated as a professional to say, don't you think that you're worth anything less. You better not accept that job. You know, you're worth more than that. Don't accept anything than the standard amount. But again, the fact is, people are going to accept those jobs. So the second part of me, I'm saying, go for it. Accept the smaller paying jobs. Do it like once to get in, maybe twice to work at a company that you want to do, a company that you want to experience, and put on your resume. But after once, or maybe after twice, then you start demanding actual pay and fair pay. Again, that's so easy. It's easy for me to say that because I have worked this way my whole life. You do a good job, you put your head down, and you just don't make a ruckus. You know, go forward and just work your butt off. And people will notice it, and eventually you'll be getting paid the money that you deserve. But there are other people that I've met. My fiance, she demands higher pay. She demanded higher pay from the beginning, and she just wouldn't let up. And that's just the way she is. And you know, she got every now and then she would get a small bump, you know, raise at this specific company that she was working at. And then after a while, it just wasn't cutting it for her, so she moved to different projects. That's what I'm saying. Eventually, the companies are going to have to figure out how this works. But right now it's quality over, right now it's quantity. It's quantity over quality for streaming services. So whenever you get something like that, companies are just going to have to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And that's how I did it. Is it right? No, it's not right. But you got to be realistic when you're looking at these things. And kids coming out of school, they're going to accept these jobs. And those are the people, my YouTube channel, anybody on the internet itself is putting out jobs and putting out the fact that you can get a job these days. And right now, people's streaming services and stuff, they need jobs filled. So there's going to be a huge influx of students and people coming into Los Angeles or coming into the industry, and they're going to be looking for jobs. And that's just how it is. It's tough, but that's just how it is. The market's going to be exploding, and companies are going to be looking for that market to choose those people. And you just got to be realistic, you know, and just work your butt off, and just be true. Be true to you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think these are cyclical problems. As you say, that this becomes a race to the bottom. So even there is a point where even if you win, you lose. So for example, I think there will be a moment where maybe the price has gone down so much that even if people accept it in the beginning because they want to get the job, they realize quickly that they are having a lot of problems of living because maybe the money is not enough to kind of cover their expenses. And I even read over there an article of some series, I don't remember which was, but that apparently they were paying like $50 a week to the people. It was like, damn, that's a lot. Like, that's not even priced in my country. And my country is like really cheap when it comes to salaries. So, but as you mentioned, like, as things go down in the price, I think there will be a moment where the quality is going to be sacrificed too much, and that's where things are going to be started turning again towards the people who can do the best quality, even if not caring about the price so much, but the fact that they just can do the quality. On my end, I will just say that to the people listening is that if you're going to set like a lower price, then do it with a strategy in mind. So one strategy could be like, look, I really want this job and I'm really passionate about working for you and getting this experience. So here's the deal. I'm going to set this price, this salary, even though it's really low, and put a deadline. Let's say I'm going to work for you for 3 months. And if in these 3 months I prove myself to be a good artist and to be a good value of the company, then please move my salary up to whatever level is needed. And yeah, I think that can be a strategy. And once you start working with them, then go to your boss. And this is something that I learned later in life. And it's so simple, but almost nobody does it, which is going to your boss and it's like telling him like, look, I want to be like a good asset for this company. I want to do a great job. So I would like you to define to me what a good job looks like to you. Like what are the three most important things to you, to this company, whatever. Like I want to excel at those things. Because something that was happening, and this is my personal case in my last job, to be honest, was that in my mind, I was doing a great job because I was in IT, I was giving maintenance to some servers, and the servers and pretty much all the technical part was doing great. But I was getting late to the company. And not by much at the beginning, but still getting late. Until a lot of time later, I figured out that to this company, like being on time was really, really important, like top priority over there. And obviously, in my mind, I was thinking I was doing a good job because the job that I had to do of taking care of the computers, of the servers was being done, and it was being done right. I wasn't meeting with the company requirements to what they evaluate to be a good employee, and that will pretty much come to bite me in the ass when they will assess to give me a raise or not. So if I had just asked from the very fucking beginning, like to my boss, what are the three most important things to you and this company, and they will have tell me like, and there was this guy who told me like, look, no matter what you do, this company values being early. So if you do that, like if you just do that, you will have a lot of good things coming for you.
Yeah.
But I only heard that after 1 year of pretty much fucking up my schedule and getting late to this company. So yeah, it's something as simple as that. So if you accept the low price, ask, okay, have me this salary for this amount of time. Then if I prove myself to be worth it, please consider giving me a raise. And once you get inside, ask what is the most important thing, like the three most important things to you here, like what I have to do in order to be considered a top artist here, and then go do these things. And and pretty much every week, like or every month, try to stay on top of your boss. Like, hey, I'm doing these things, I'm doing these things, I'm doing them well. So when the time comes, like let's say if you say 3 months, give me a raise, now you can go to your boss and it's like, this was the deal. I have been able to do all these things that you needed me to do. now you can ask for a raise, and they will have to do it because that was the deal, and you have
Yep.
proven yourself to be a good employee.
Yep. You
But
can't
yeah,
argue with reason.
definitely. And do you see any opportunities in general that exist now that didn't exist when you started being an artist? Like learning opportunities, career opportunities?
Hmm. The only thing I can think of is streaming services. They're much, much bigger now. Like they have their own in-house animation. Like Netflix has its own in-house animation studio where you can go into work every day, and that didn't exist a handful of years ago, or not to my knowledge. That's pretty much all I can think of. That's really gonna start coming up big time. Apple, Disney. Well, I mean Disney's already doing it, but other bigger streaming services. They're gonna have to compete with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the war on the streaming services is going to be really interesting because uh, I think that the biggest problem that they will have to face is the part where you can choose, like how people choose what to pay. Like for example, I'm one of the people who pays Netflix when something interesting comes up, and then I watch the series and stop paying Netflix. And I think that now that we have other options, like that is what is going to be happening a lot with other streaming services, and we'll see who ends up on top of that.
Yeah, another big one is the internet for sure. Like the internet's always been a big deal, but now, like with my videos, with other artists' videos, you can go and learn everything that you need to learn on the internet. People think you need to go to a school to learn. Yeah, if you want to shave off, 2 years, 3 years, uh, well, it depends what kind of school you go to, but a good teacher can shave off so many years of you trying to learn by yourself. But if you want to do it cheap, you can learn everything that you want to learn. With dedication, you can learn it through the internet. You got to find the right people, though, and it's kind of a tough, tricky thing, which takes a little bit more time. But the main thing you need to know is that you just need to know how to think, and you need to know how to recognize good art. Thinking in a very intelligent way. It's not a lot of people do it, but thinking like putting two and two together. If I make this mistake in art, then I don't make that mistake again the next time I do a different drawing. If you can do that, the process of elimination while studying, stuff on the internet, you'll get there in no time. But the problem is a lot of these kids are not really taught to think. Standard school systems kind of do that for the most part, is they just put you through the same old thing every day, and you're not really challenged to kind of put two and two together by yourself in a creative way. And I feel like the internet does that. Specific parts of the internet. All right. I mean,
Yeah,
the part that I'm thinking about is very forward in thinking and making you think outside of yourself. All right, because you can get stuck in a vacuum of stupidity. But yeah, internet's good.
yeah, this is something that I think the whole world has an issue with the education system because I don't know if to say lucky, to go to a really, really bad, horribly bad school
Yeah.
where the last 2 years we didn't have classes at all. Like, for example, in my
Well,
last year of school, we only had one homework in math the whole year, and I didn't do that homework. And yet my teachers still pass us with our grade system goes from 0 to 10. So I was getting 9.8 in my grades.
ooh,
And when we were to the teachers like, oh, look, we're not complaining. It's just out of curiosity. Like, where the hell this grade came from? Because we are pretty sure that we have done nothing this year. And they told us, like, they were pretty honest, like, look, I don't want to, I'm not crazy enough to fail you and have to deal with you a whole other year. It would
wow.
be better for me just to pass your grade and you're going to get fucked in the university, but whatever.
Wow. Now,
And
see, I wish I had gone through something like that, because then I would have an excuse of why I'm so friggin' stupid.
but this, at least in my country, this is the thing that I was able to watch that amazes me. It's like people who actually went to, let's say, good schools and things like that, they don't have common sense. They don't have a very basic sense of logic, let's say. And I was able to see that myself and pretty much my friends in my school, they were better at thinking, because something that what happened in my school is that we were used to be so crazy that we will get grounded, and the, pretty much the punishment was physical punishment,
Oh,
like marching up in the sun for hours, or they will put us to clean the school, clean the toilets. In the worst case scenario, like where you did something really, really, really bad, you had to clean the toilets of the school, like, or you will have to be put up in doing administrative work in the school and
whoa.
things like that. So yeah,
That's free labor.
yeah,
That's
pretty
free
much
labor.
free kid labor,
Yeah.
free minor labor. So we even
Oh,
had to go through and arrange the paperwork of the accounting department once, because I don't remember what we did, but but I was there in that warehouse, like fixing around massive amount of paper. But anyways, in the middle of all that crazy kind of thing, I think we were kind of developing as well this kind of thinking, like as you said, like if I don't fuck up this way, then I will have to do this later in life. And yeah, it was a little bit surprising to me that people from normal schools or better schools, I will meet them and realize that don't have developed, they haven't developed that kind of thinking very well. And my friends and myself did. And at the beginning, it didn't make sense to me because we never did anything in school. But apparently, going through that was better than going through the normal system. And and I think that that is going to be really hard for the future, because you really need to learn to think and learn by
yeah.
yourself in this new era. Like this time that our grandparents used to have, where they could learn something and do that thing forever and ever and
Yeah.
retire quietly, that's gone. Like we will need to learn a lot of, like we will have to be in constant state of learning now what we need to, the things that we will need inside 3 years or 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's never going to stop, I think, for us.
Yep.
Anyways, is there any last advice that you would like to give to people watching us right now that we haven't talked into this interview yet?
Some last advice. I think I've given all the good words that I can give. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. As well, people are welcome to watch your previous interview as well and see the lessons that you gave us in the past. I think I will highly advise that as well. Okay. And if people want to find more about you, where can they do so?
You can look on YouTube. You can just look up my name. There's two different Ethan Beckers. One makes the knives, and the other one uses them. So I'm not the guy that makes the knives. That's the other guy.
Nice to know. Nice to know. Well, I
Yeah.
will put your links as well in the post below, so that if people want to contact you and find you, they can do so. So thanks a lot for giving us your time, Ethan. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So this has been the last episode of the Creative Hustler Show. If you like it, please click the like button below and also click the subscribe button. Or if you're listening from the podcast, subscribe to our podcast to be notified on new episodes. Until next time.